Good afternoon, good evening, Jar of Marble dwellers and Jar of Marble curious. My name is Linda and this is Jar of Marbles. I hope that this finds you well and that you've had a most exciting week, or at least, you're just drinking a bit more fluid and, keeping your meds up and just, have reasons to smile. It's always good to have reasons to smile. But this week I was thinking about expectations and how we can sometimes have unrealistic expectations and then wonder why we feel angry or we aren't able to express our anger. And I thought, I'm just going to have a little think about this and see what we come up with. So expectations with a little bit of Queenager wisdom. So do you know that you get angry when your expectations are not being met? This will only make sense if anger pops up or plagues you. Yes, marble dwellers, you've got your anger here on this side of the boxing ring, and on the other side you've got your expectations and what you thought needs to happen, and if it doesn't happen, you're going to be royally upset about it. That's it. So we're talking about breaking loops, thought and behavioural loops, also intensely personal because we all see and process the world differently. If you want to stop getting cranky, as we say here in Australia, you've got to have you've got to have a gander at your expectations. Oh, I know, right? Oh, thank you very much. No, thank you. Stop it. Anyway, so it's on us. It's what we want, what we expect, what we are sure is the only way it can roll out so that, there'll be a result that only, we, you, me can be happy with. And if it doesn't go as you see fit, all hell is going to break loose. No, marble dwellers, we can do better than that. It's good if you are mindful enough to recognise this behaviour is also heart attack material. So we know now that stress can lead to high blood pressure, which is, poses a risk for heart attacks and strokes. And stress is also, it contributes to such cardiovascular disease risks of smoking, overeating, and, a lack of physical activity. So constant stress has been linked to higher activity in an area of the brain linked to processing emotions and an increased likelihood of developing heart and circulatory disease. The researchers from Harvard University suggested stress could be as important a risk factor as smoking or, no, that's no good, or high blood pressure. I believe the biggest mistakes us humans make is believing that it only happens to others. And in regard to strokes and heart attacks, there's no age group that is actually safe anymore. I do find that scary. There is so much research going on now that is supporting that being in a state of anger often is going to lead to poor heart health. We need your heart to not be under too much strain, and so where possible there has to be a path found to keep calmer and in a deeper, profound way. Now, I know that some of us find ourselves in very, very stressful situations, which of course is going to up your heart rate, which is, of course, is going to set your mind on fire, because there are situations in life that are frightening and are threatening, and certainly I am very respectful of that. So I really am generalising in terms of when we are, getting upset because someone didn't give us the correct straw in our milkshake, things that, are indicators that things aren't going well within our own heads. It is worth knowing that making peace with, recognising that you are not in control of everyone else and anyone else or anything else that's going on in your world or indeed in the world. Don't lose your peace to anger and frustration. You are setting yourself up hugely here to feel even more angrier. This is not a good way to live. Mindfulness has gone right out the door and you're left feeling a little bit zapped of energy and maybe a little foolish, or maybe too damned angry to feel foolish. Perhaps everyone else is wrong and you are the only one that's right. No way, marble jet dwellers. You can do better than that. You absolutely can. You can, and you bloody will. That's right. Just needed to get that bit out because I feel very strongly about this. You feel very strongly about a lot of things. I do, Bob. That's right, Bob. Good observation there, Bobbo. We've got to try and get our agendas out of the mix, unhook yourself, and that is definitely a mighty step towards being peaceful and allowing everyone else just to be. When I was younger, a younger woman, anger was always something that I just had difficulty in expressing, and I know what it's connected to. As a child, I was shamed into stopping crying if I, started crying. And so I learnt early to hide my feelings lest I would suffer more. Hence why being in the wrong company or similarly undeveloped company as I was growing up meant that I was feeling even more frustrated because I was still being punished for trying to express my feelings, which looking back was mostly sadness and fear. So it went sideways quickly and always pear-shaped in nearly all ways. I like pears, but tinned pears. Do you, Bob? Yes, with cottage cheese. Oh, that sounds lovely, Bob. Hence, when I started educating myself, that was kind of why I started, was to find out why I was the way I was in my most personal moments, for I was the only one who knew what I really thought, and the least I could be was honest with myself. My partners, looking back, the so-called romantic ones, but really were anything but bloody romantic, took pleasure in razzing me up and then bullying me for reacting, twisting my words, and no kindness, to my crying, just watch me fall apart and look at me smugly. So humiliating and so frustrating. That's the pattern, that pattern from childhood right into, my adulthood. I was so young, I didn't know that I could just stop, that I could walk away. And, that all sounds so easy, doesn't it? But it's not. And I'm certainly not trying to, make it sound like it's easy. But when I realised that, I had just given away all my power, I was, in victim mode, if you like, when I really, really realised that I needed to educate myself, that was probably one of my most finest moments in regard to realising that I needed to find out why I reacted the way I did, and then also why I made the choices and partners that I did. I mean, as we all know, nodding away, I can just imagine this is what we do when we are not, developed creatures. We've not been, in a family where you're getting, say average support, and someone who's interested in how you feel, so that you don't shove it all down and then it all comes out explosively, or you push it down so far that then you find yourself overreacting to something and even you don't know why, and that's because it oozes out at at the most, usually at the most unwanted moments. But what I know for sure is as soon as I started working on myself, I could see the predators clearly, and now they do not get my time at all. The cruelty I endured while I was asleep, as I call it, that was then and this is now. Burnt that bridge, charcoaled that sucker. Now I do not owe them squat. Being gentle with ourselves and loving with ourselves, and especially during chaotic times, becomes much easier when you're truly caring about your heart, that you're not, having palpitations because they're being purposely disagreeable again, and you can feel your entire body reacting. That's just the worst feeling, isn't it? Caring about your sweetness and loving-heartedness and not being prey to ding-dongs, related or otherwise. It is bloody hard to truly get that. Some folk are so bad for your health, and if you are having to protect yourself just to have a conversation, danger, danger. Anger is often just suffering that has not been met with compassion, as said by the Dalai Lama. Our anger, one of our primary emotions, is an alarm bell that a boundary is being violated. Oh my God, the first time I ever read that, I thought, oh my goodness, that is just so, so true. Anger can feel like indignation and feelings of victimization. Anger can be misdirected. Oh, I know that one. Yes, I could point the finger at my parents and the dog and the friend down the road, but that would keep me in a loop. A tip to moving forward while healing is replace I should have known better with now I know better. It just feels better, doesn't it? It's not, something that you're hoping you're going to sort out. It's like, no, now I know better. I knew I could do better than that. I didn't want to be a victim, and I did not want, to think those words, but I knew that I could be more than what I'd been raised to believe I was or could be. I believed that because I naturally believed that of others too. And especially raising my daughters, I knew I was streets ahead of how I was raised, because I genuinely adore my children and have always been demonstrative. They never had to guess whether I loved them or appreciated their presence. I am not saying it's easy, but once you truly get to the place of you being all about you, being a true friend to yourself that you are and can be to complete strangers, then I realised that I was entitled to some of that too. What I meant about the stranger comment there is that quite often, we're really, really kind to people we don't know. So how about swinging a little bit to yourself? And that's when I realised, hold on a minute there, I get this. So over time, it made more sense. It made me realise, as I read about self-respect, self-value, and over time, as I said, realised it was something I could attain and keep, as opposed to just some nice words written on a page, that I could have that. And the only person getting in the way of me having it was me. For the longest time, I wanted the validation, the love, and the feeling of belonging. But again, I had got to the point where I didn't want to kid myself anymore. Those hopes filled me with tension and fear. None of it was going to happen, and decades on, my hopes of a happy ending hasn't. But meanwhile, I got on with my fierce little life, and regrets? None. I'm talking about this because I have been inboxed by a few people who talk about this very subject, just the unhappiness of not being seen by those that they thought would love them, be it parents, be it siblings, relations, really good friends, good family friends, partners, and it's left them feeling like if only they could come up with the magic words, or if they could change themselves in some way. And that is just, literally chasing after your tail. So it just inspired me just to look at, where I've been and what I had to teach myself, because there was a stage where I had tried to get counselling, but every time I went to meet a counsellor or a psychiatrist, I just must have just been attracting the ding-dongs of the ding-dongs, because they were just awful. And the first time I ever went, she said, well, you better make this quick, I've only got 20 minutes. It's like, well, I hate to inconvenience you, really. And so I started, just talking a little bit about what I felt was plaguing me at the time. And then she shut me down and basically started defending the person that I felt, had hurt me. And I sort of went, no. So I gave her this 30-second quick review of, but this happened, that happened, blah, blah, blah. And she went, oh, and I thought, you're an idiot. So that was that. That was absolutely ridiculous. I felt like I was doing what I've always, had done at those various stages of my life, which justifying myself, hoping someone would believe me. Well, now I don't give two shits really, because I know what I know. And further to that, I found peace in just knowing what I know, and that if other people want to believe, the little narrative of the story they've been told, please, you listen to that story, but stay the hell away from me. Anyway, it's a ride. And like old age, it isn't for the faint-hearted, for the weak. It is for warriors who say, nah, I'm not putting up with shit and wondering why I feel like half a person. No one else, marble dwellers, gets that right. You cannot place your life force in anyone else's hands and hope for the best. I know that lesson well. Suffering in Buddhism talks about it. It is attached to expectations to eliminate suffering, eliminate expectations. Expectations are the killer of all joy. That's right, Bob. You've been reading a bit of Buddhism. Yes, I have. You'd never know that's me, is it? It's like a completely different voice, I know. Also, when we find ourselves angry, it can be a reminder that our values are being challenged. Again, what can you do to change someone else's actions? It takes time not to fall into old thinking. So don't beat yourself up about that. It will take a number of goes. Oh, I've done it again. Oh, I'm doing it again. And that's okay. Because the fact that you're realising it is so cool. Because when I first started realising that I was still repeating behaviours, I was still thinking the same things, I was still reacting the same way, and it would come out in stupid ways, might be, as I'm driving and someone would be, driving too close behind me, or I don't know, they didn't indicate or something, and oh my God, not that I was openly reacting to them, but it was just changing, the chemistry in my brain. And I thought, hold on a minute, come back to dough, Lindy Bindy, and let's just, why are you worrying about that? What does it really matter? And then go, good on you for picking that up. And so I'm telling you this because I think we just live in a society where, it's quick gratification, or here's the answer. Oh, well, it's not working. How many times did you try it? Oh, once. And it's nothing comes about, once in terms of, when we're learning new behaviours. It's like when you've got a habit of doing something. That took a long time of doing the same thing over and over and over for you to say, know how to drive, or how to blow dry your hair, or whatever the skill is. And so if you are unlearning a habit, it's going to take a bit of time, but it will happen. That is absolutely guaranteed. So also when we find ourselves angry, as I say, it can be a reminder that our values are being challenged. Again, what can you do about changing someone else's actions? And as I said, it takes time not to fall into old thinking, which we can feel very entitled to have. That's code for being a victim again. And you know what I say? Bugger that, marble dwellers, bugger that. It's bloody right. Because you know why? It keeps us stuck. Oh, bugger that too. That's right, Bob. What day is no more? What day is that thinking? Enough is enough. You've heard that saying, you want to make God laugh? Tell her your plans. Sometimes we are furious, fully aware that we are crazy mad and we want to move forward. It can be a powerful force that can be used to create change. Compassion for yourself and others is key. It can be so confusing where anger is concerned. Excessive anger is never healthy. Research shows that anger over time does damage the heart. So what is your anger trying to show you? Anger is sad's bodyguard. A bodyguard, Mrs. Marbles. Yeah, think about it, Bob. If you feel really mad about something, it can often be you are really sad. I'm not sad. Hashtag now I know better. If you're feeling anger, be curious about the pain that might be underneath. Anger can be seen as the thread that leads you to the pain. Something you can do is allow yourself the pause and feel it without a reaction on the outside. And it has to be a pause. Because as Angelina Jolie says, when somebody is not right for you, God will continuously use them to hurt until you're strong enough to let them go. Now, when I first read that, I thought, yeah. And I thought, but if you're really being truly honest with yourself and say you are in a situation where you know someone isn't right for you, and until you actually let them go, they're just going to keep on hurting you. So until you're strong enough, and this is by way of self-education and whatever form that is, eventually you see it for what it is. You go, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it to you and I can't do it to myself. Look, it's okay to lose your shit sometimes, because if you keep your shit, you end up with all the shit, and then you'll explode, and then there'll be like shit everywhere. It'll be a shit fight and a shit storm, and nobody wants that. I love to see what happens when you don't give up. Every day that you show up for yourself and do what needs to be done, your future self benefits. Keep going, Queen. You're worth it. When things change inside you, things change around you. Now, isn't that the truth? I'm not sure I like change. It can be hard, but Bob, but as hard as you make it. Well, I wouldn't make it hard though. Well, Bob, depends on what you allow and who you allow into your life. Yeah. Trust your intuition, and most importantly, take care of yourself. Us Queenagers, we never forget that we are our greatest investment. Chin up, shoulders back, Queen. You have got this. Sometimes we have our version of events because we are upset, and we want someone to, believe us. More than that, listen to us. So asking that age-old question, are we the drama? But we must make conscious decisions about what we are insisting on staying involved with. Could be family, a group, friends, a job, whatever it is. Most times the answer lies within ourselves. It could be our story, a calculated coping mechanism. It's a narrative that we may have needed to cope at some point in our life. Turns out that a day arrives when we can just let the story go because it's just keeping us in anger. I am only generalising here. There are situations that are so extreme and so complicated with too many moving parts for one size-fits-all solution. I absolutely acknowledge that, and I think it is important to say this. But as far as moving ourselves to the next thing, we have to consider who we are carrying that is stopping us from really living our life to its fullness for ourselves. It is not being selfish. It is necessary to fulfill our destinies. It actually is a Queenager thing. I have found that when I started being really consistent with myself, it just felt like this really beautiful wake-up call, Queenagers. Commit to showing up for yourself every day and watch your whole world change. Character is like pregnancy. It cannot be hidden forever. Nothing in the world can bother you as much as your own mind. We can think that others seem to be bothering you, but it's not others, it's your own mind. Ralph Waldo Emerson, most of the shadows of this life are caused by standing in our own sunshine, unquote. Oh my goodness, that's so true. I absolutely know this to be true. When I'm standing in my own sunshine, as in lurking in the shadows because I'm prioritising others, for example, I am the one that is getting in the way of my own progress. It can appear that helping others is easier than working out what we need to do or get on with for ourselves. It seems more exhausting doing for ourselves than running around like a chicken with its head, chopped off for others. And this from David Bowie. Aging is an extraordinary process where you become the person you always should have been. I just really love that because I think for myself and many others that I've spoken to, we really can shake our heads in agreement with the fact that we do come into our own, and you have this very shorter string for nonsense. You just sort of think, I don't know if I'm going to put up with that, and you don't. So relationships will always require effort, without a doubt. But it's important to take note when a relationship feels like effort and no longer brings happiness. Repeat after me. I don't need to do what everyone else wants me to do. I don't have to anticipate people's needs. I don't need anyone to approve of me. I don't have to explain myself. I don't need to feel guilty about my boundaries. I don't have to say yes if I want to say no. I don't need to feel bad for staying at home. I don't have to overextend myself to be enough. I don't have to pretend I'm different than I am. Oh, and I just love how music can make us feel. Music can change how we feel, think, and act. Similarly, the endocrine system is like our inner symphony with each hormone playing its music at a certain time for our well-being. When any of their notes are out of sync, we can hear it through how we look, feel and function in those times. We may need a subtle shift back into harmony with our everyday food and lifestyle choices, unquote. Deanna Minich, PhD. Everyone has regrets somewhere along the line of our lives. The trick is not to let them consume you because there's nothing we can do to change the past. Better to find a way to make some kind of peace with it. Sure, I've made mistakes, things I would change if I could. But if you obsess about all the things you've done wrong, you'll drive yourself mad. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other and remember to breathe deeply. At times in my life, I have felt that everything has just completely fallen apart, and that is frightening and very unbalancing. This is where I earn my stripes, as I call it. Does not feel it at the time, but anywho, it to me is just a more subtle message in a form of what seems like a major disaster. It's like, stop. What do I need to readdress? This to me is just a sign that I need to readdress and just have a good hard look at the decisions I'm making in regard to my health. It's a really, really big subject. I could actually bumble, rumble, ramble. There's the word. I could ramble on for quite some time. But meanwhile, I realised that there is a time for everything, and it is time for me to say fare thee well. The end of another podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Say good day to the family for me and the pet alligator, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.